Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I'm Ryan Wormeli, joined by Andrew Erickson. We are talking league winners. We were supposed to have a guest on the show. He is feeling under the weather, so we are rolling with a two-man show here today, Erickson, which is kind of a preview for what the in-season show is going to be on Tuesdays this year. Our trade show is just going to be a Worm and Erickson happy hour every single week. So we get an early preview of that here on our League Winners episode. What we're going to do is we're just going to run through a bunch of league winners that you have provided here. I will agree or disagree. We are also going to throw out some league winners that the listeners shared with us on social media, and we'll kind of react to them, see what we think. I might throw in a few of mine as well, but this is really one of the most fun and really one of the most important episodes of the year, because you look at the course of the season and getting value on draft day feels good, and it's something you can brag about, and it's something that's important, but league winners, like the guys who literally do reshape the fantasy season, are what it is about at the end of the day, and that's really where we're trying to own in on in this episode.
Yeah, I think too, it goes hand in hand with league winners. It really does depend where you draft them. They're not necessarily always the players in the first couple rounds, because those players are being drafted that highly for a reason. Everybody kind of agrees that these are the top players that you should be taking, and it's really this guy versus this guy. I like both of them. Whereas it's the players that drastically beat their ADP that are the big league winners. Just thinking about last year, Chase Brown, right? He was a massive hit because he was a guy going in the double-digit rounds, ended up being an RB1 down the stretch, and really when it mattered most, that's when Chase Brown really broke out. Same thing with Brian Thomas Jr. Again, a rookie wide receiver that was drafted way after a lot of the other guys that were selected in round one, and he ended up having a monster second half of the season and helped a lot of people win their league. So, although on the other side of the coin, you could look at Rashee Rice and Chris Godwin. Those guys weren't necessarily league winners because they got hurt, but to start the year, those guys were on fire. And they were good picks until obviously they got injured. So it's finding that kind of balance to guys that could start the season out really hot, while also looking for players that could finish the season very strong, which we're going to talk about a lot during the trade show this year, is trying to find second half league winners even after your draft has concluded.
You know, it's interesting. I wanted to sort of talk about defining what a league winner is, because these terms become kind of nebulous over time, like sleeper versus breakout versus league winner. It's kind of hard to make a distinction between those. We, for the purposes of this episode, when we are actually going to be highlighting names, are talking about guys that are really like round 3 is about the earliest we're looking at. We're kind of not looking in those top 24 to 30 picks. But I think you can make the case that those guys still can be league winners. Like last year, if you took Saquon in the late first or early second, that was a league winner for you, even if he wasn't the single best value you could have drafted. Same with Jamar Chase. Those were the two most important players to have in fantasy last season, regardless of the fact that they weren't like, oh, this mid-round breakout who returned so much value for you. They just were the guys that were important to have to be in the best position to win your league. And you are, I do think there's a clear distinction between like season-long league winners and then those guys who are like, they win in the league for you in December because literally during the playoffs they have, a really hot final month. But I think those early round guys, again, not that we're really going to be focusing on them today, I think they do fit the category of league winner, though.
I agree with you. I think that the one thing that makes it a little bit different for me, and maybe Jamar Chase isn't the best example, but they're not going where they should have gone, right? Even last year, Jamar Chase should have been, again, using hindsight, should have been everyone's wide receiver 1. Saquon Barkley should have been everybody's RB1, based on hindsight. And the thing I think with Saquon was anyone could have drafted him last year, just based on where his ADP was at the beginning of round 2. So it's almost like guys outside round 1. And I think that a fun way to think about this is when we're drafting players in 2026, the first round 2026, who are we drafting inside the top 3? Who's inside the top 5 of the 2026 draft? Because if they're being drafted that highly next year, it means they were probably a league winner this season.
I do. That is one of my favorite ways to frame thinking about any kind of player debate in August is who do I expect to be going higher next August? Yeah. I think that's a good way to look at things. Quick reminder for everybody that all of our 2025 consensus rankings and tiers can be found at fantasypros.com/rankings. Erickson, let's dive right in. So we've got a couple of sort of these are the league winners that are going earlier, not in the first 2 rounds, but they're in that kind of rounds 3 to 6 range, like guys that people are aggressively trying to get, but that we think could take another step forward, be going a lot higher a year from now as league winners. Then we've got a few more names in kind of the mid round, and then we've got a lot of kind of lottery tickets late, guys that we think are worth spending on late in your drafts that could take a really big step forward, return that value, and also serve as league winners either early or late in the season. Let's start with the guys going earlier in the draft, though. A couple of names for us. We're going to start with maybe the player of the Fantasy Pros podcast this summer, Tetairoa McMillan. I feel like we've talked about him every episode, but I don't want to stop talking about him because I think the value is still there. I think he has extremely high upside. I think assuming healthy has a pretty high floor, honestly. You were saying before the show, since we don't have a third person on the episode, that maybe if I really believe it, not to fake it, but if I really believe it, I should play a little devil's advocate and push back. I will not be pushing back on this one because I am in strong agreement with you on Tetairoa McMillan. Why for you, Erickson, is he a league winner this year?
Well, I think part of it has to just do with the price. I don't understand why he's going so low. He's going outside the top 24 in a lot of home league ADP. I believe all the Fantasy Pros analysts have him inside their top 20 overall wide receivers. So he's someone that not only do I want to wait for, but I'm more than happy to just pull up the board, especially after that round 3, round 4 crop of wide receivers, some of the veteran guys that maybe I don't love being super aggressive on. Tetairoa McMillan's kind of in that next tier where once all those guys are off the board, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to pull up T-Mac and grab him as my wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3, depending on what I did in the first couple rounds. I just think that don't overthink it. It's a top 10 draft pick. He's going into a situation where he can clearly be the number 1 target for Bryce Young, who, despite his up and downs as an NFL quarterback, has shown that he can support fantasy viable weapons. And most notably, it's been Adam Thielen, who's a much older wide receiver who's been able to be productive when on the field and when healthy. Adam Thielen's last 6 games as the Panthers' number 1 wide receiver last year, almost 15 fantasy points per game. That would have been 8th among all wide receivers. And he was 34 years old, and he was producing that way with Bryce Young as his quarterback. Dave Canales knows exactly what he's doing with Tetairoa McMillan. He drafted him for a reason. He had a lot of success in Tampa Bay with Mike Evans. That's been one of the comps for Tetairoa McMillan coming out of Arizona. I just think that he's being drafted at his floor just based on him being a top 10 NFL draft pick. And he's one of the most under-discussed, kind of underrated top 10 wide receiver draft picks that I can remember. And the fact that he's going in the same range as Malik Neighbors, again, I don't think that he's the same talent as Neighbors, but I think it's a similar bet to make as drop this guy into an offense without any established pass catchers, maybe like Jalen Coker, but he was an undrafted guy who's also been banged up a little bit throughout the offseason. So for me, Tetairoa McMillan is one of the easiest clicks you can make for all the reasons we've already talked about.
Yeah, we don't need to rehash it too much because we've talked about him a lot. I've made this point a bunch of times this summer, so for those who haven't heard it yet, here it is. If you have heard it yet, sorry, this will be the last time I make this point. I have made that comparison to Neighbors a ton. He is not as talented as Neighbors, but he is this year's Neighbors in terms of where he is going in drafts, just simply does not line up with where he will be next year, to our point that we led this show with. This is the cheapest I believe he will ever be going in drafts. I am really confident that this guy is going to be a top 15 wide receiver next year, if not even higher, honestly. I can't understand ranking where he is. What is really surprising to me, Erickson, about him is Tetairoa McMillan is 23rd in our half PPR expert consensus rankings. ADP, his real-time ADP, which is a new feature that Fantasy Pros has, everybody should check out, is wide receiver 26. This is a top 10 pick, a rookie who's really talented, that a lot of people like us have been talking up for a long time this summer, and the ADP is lower than his ranking. That's uncommon. Usually it's flipped. So he is still very attainable. I just had a salary cap draft over the weekend, and I got him for $7 in a $200 budget format. I'm like, well, this is more of a home league format that league was in. But if you are in one of those leagues, the interest is not quite, I think, matching what we think the upside is. So yes, he's very easily inside my top 20 at the position. Again, real-time ADP is wide receiver 26. He's behind Xavier Worthy, Cortland Sutton, who I really like, DJ Moore, Devontae Smith, George Pickens, DK Metcalf. Those are a lot of guys either in questionable offenses or who are not the number 1 target in their offense. We saw last year, Dave Canales worked his magic second half on Bryce Young. Bryce Young doesn't need to take a step forward. He just needs to be what he was in the second half, and he can easily support a very talented top 10 draft pick at the position. And I think some of the reason that people are a little, maybe not forgetting about McMillan, but just like not completely over the moon, is because his best college season wasn't his last college season, but his 2023 was insanely good, and his 2024 wasn't so terrible that it's like, oh, this dude fell off boards. He was still the 8th pick. So yeah, I mean, again, we've talked about it a ton. We can move on because I know we're in agreement.
I do want to say one last thing on him. You can take it from me. When we were at the combine, with all the prospects, this is before they were all drafted. Somebody asked Travis Hunter who the best wide receiver he faced in college football was, and he said it was Tetairoa McMillan. Actually, said it was T-Mac. That's what he said, because that's what you have to call him. It's either T-Mac or Tetairoa McMillan. It is not Tet. Do not call that man Tet. His mom will find you.
I want to call him Tet because I just want to give I want a 1-syllable nickname. It's not even that it's Tet, the first part of his name. It's just like T-Mac is 2 syllables. Tetairoa is, it's 3 syllables or 4. I can count. But I like the Tet just because it's so simple. But yeah, we'll try and respect her wishes. Yeah, like I'm really like, if I could plant my flag on one player this year, I think that Tetairoa McMillan is going to be a top 12 receiver in drafts a year from now. Like I just feel really confident about that. Because I think he's really good, and the situation is literally perfect for him. Let's go to your other kind of round 3 to 6 guy, your certified league winner here.
I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker, running back for the Seattle Seahawks. And I know that the discourse with Kenneth Walker is he's going to stay healthy, he's going to get hurt, Zach Charbonnet's taking over the backfield. Understand those concerns. I think that it's baked into his ADP now, where you're seeing him fall into round 4, going outside of the top 3 rounds. But the upside case with Kenneth Walker is that he is the RB1 and bell cow of the Seahawks offense. And in Kubiak's scheme, last year we saw Alvin Kamara be number 1 expected fantasy points per game. So when you marry the role in this offense at running back with Ken Walker and how explosive he is, good as a pass catcher like he showed last season, a tackle-breaking machine like he showed last season, then you have the recipe and all the ingredients for a top 5 fantasy football running back if everything hits. It's a contract year for Kenneth Walker. Like, he has to ball out this season, and I think the Seahawks are prepping him by playing him, being very conservative, not playing him in the preseason, because they're ready to unleash him down the stretch. I know sometimes with backfields, we fall in love with the guy that's behind them because the other guy's dealing with injuries. Sometimes that's what happens, right? Maybe it is going to be Charbonnet, and that's no reason you can't draft both players. Like, you can draft both players. Like, no one's stopping you if you want to get Walker and Charbonnet as the handcuff. But a lot of times we also get this wrong, where no, the second running back actually doesn't get involved as much as we are all projecting, as the coach speak is indicating. So for me, I'm just looking back at the last 2 years, what we've seen of these two guys. And when Walker's been healthy, Walker's always been the guy. And I would feel different. It was a new head coach in Seattle. It's a new offensive play caller, but Mike McDonald is still calling the shots. He's still the head coach. And I still think that he believes that Ken Walker is their best running back. And I actually found a quote from last season from head coach Mike McDonald. And it was talking to his running backs coach for the Seahawks, Kennedy Palamalu. And they were looking at the roster, basically said, every time we go over the roster, Kennedy Palamalu gives me a little hint like, let's feed this guy. He could be special, with Ken, in reference to Ken Walker. So obviously last year he was that when he was on the field. He was a top 12 fantasy running back when he was healthy. So we're making bets on Christian McCaffrey to stay healthy, Saquon Barkley to stay. I mean, those guys are going in round 1. We know what their upside is if they can stay healthy through all 17 weeks. Ken Walker, again, not to that extent, but now you have to just make that risk in round 4 versus round 1. I'm willing to take that shot because I think that if he is healthy on the field, he's going to vastly outproduce it and be a top 10 fantasy running back just based on this new scheme that he's in and the talent that Ken Walker is.
Real-time ADP's 37th pick, so basically the first pick of round 4. I think the most important point you make about Walker is that the ADP hasn't risen despite the fact that, you can paint a pretty clear picture of what the upside is. He's still going around 4. Because I was really high on Walker early in the offseason. I have come off it a little for literally only one reason, and that reason is I am just tired of seeing foot pain and not practicing. Like it just makes me that nervous enough to not be like as gung-ho as I am about Tetairoa McMillan, I still really like Walker. I'm just not as I am planting my flag. I feel really confident about this in the same way, but it is strictly an injury concern thing because he's had some injury stuff in the last couple of seasons and has been dealing some of that foot stuff in practice this August. If you guaranteed me health, I think this is a first round pick, honestly. Like I am totally with you on what the upside is. I don't have any doubts about the usage when healthy, even though I really like Charbonnet. I love the way this running game I expect it to look with Kubiak and just the general kind of talk around this team in camp. Gray Zabel was like one of my favorite draft picks of the entire draft in April, and he has looked every bit the part so far in August in terms of just improving the offensive line at guard. So like I love literally, he checks every box for me, especially as a 4th-round pick. I would take him to 3rd probably just to make sure I get him, late 3rd rather than wait for the 4th. But the injury does concern me a little, but that's still kind of baked into the price, to your point.
I guess for me, it's just about looking at the potential bell cows in his range. There are really none. I mean, Breece Hall is going to probably be in a committee. James Cook, we know, is not a bell cow. Then you have some of the rookie running backs, Henderson and Harvey. Again, those guys aren't profiling as straight up bell cows. Now, they have appealing upside cases, but when you're looking at the best case scenario outcome, I think Ken Walker has the case to be the highest ranked running back in that situation. So that's why I'm bullish on Ken Walker. And I think, too, there was something else I was thinking about with him. The thought has escaped me, though.
The 3 names, just while you're thinking about that, the 3 names going after him in real-time ADP before you get to, like, Hall and Henderson are Kamara, Hubbard, and Connor. That feels like more of a floor play versus ceiling, guys like Connor and Hubbard, like, because they could have, the usage that we're looking for in those offenses. I mean, those are some of the more popular, like, boring picks that people are like, yeah, these guys are probably going to be value at the end of the day. But the ceiling is just different with Walker.
Yeah. So I actually remember what I was thinking. After week 1, if we had to rearrange all the guys again, we do in our rest of season rankings, Ken Walker's not going to be in this range anymore. Like, he's going to be either significantly higher if he ends up being the bell cow week 1, or he's going to drop significantly because, oh no, full-blown committee, Charbonnet's the RB1, run for the hills. Like, I think it's really more of that scenario. So I think that this round 4 price is really more of a hedging our bets because we aren't 100% sure. And it is a position where you got to pick a side. And there are people that are on the Charbonnet side. He's taken over. That's the bet you want to make. That's fine. But I want to bet on the guy that I think is the more talented guy in the backfield. And I think that it is Kenneth Walker. So that's the bet that I will make. And hopefully when we're talking about him in entering week 2, we can talk about Ken Walker maybe as a buy candidate for those that maybe still don't believe, even if he balls out in week 1.
I think it's the ringer guys who kind of coin like the week 1 test, like the eyeball test. Like, we could be sitting there 2:30 Eastern week 1 on that first Sunday, and it's just like, yeah, this was a mistake to rank Kenneth Walker. Like, you see 2 long plays, you see the running game look great for Seattle, and you're just immediately like, yes, this was clearly dumb by us all August. When
you see them line up in the I formation with the fullback,
yeah.
Oh man.
You can get in the game. Best Ball is live at DraftKings. $15 million is on the line with real stakes and real excitement. Best Ball is the biggest fantasy contest at DraftKings. We're talking a $15 million guaranteed prize pool with 2 millionaires being crowned for first and second place. Play season-long fantasy football the DraftKings way. With Best Ball, there's no waiver wires and no roster management. You get bigger rosters so injuries won't end your season. Just draft your team and you're set. If a shot at winning a share of $15 million isn't enough to get you excited, check this out. DraftKings is offering everyone a Draft One, Get One special. Your $20 entry fee scores you a bonus ticket. Download the DraftKings app and use code FANTASYPROS. That's code FANTASYPROS for all customers who enter the NFL Best Ball $15 million millionaire contest to get a bonus ticket and get a shot at being crowned one of 2 millionaires. Only on DraftKings. Erickson, let's move to our sort of mid-round league winners here. Starting off with a wide receiver from the Packers.
Yeah, so I'm not even sure he even qualifies for middle rounds anymore because his ADP has continued to fall and fall. So he's probably more of a late round guy, and it's Jayden Reed. He's dealing with a foot injury. It's reached a point where, and we were drafting in the Fantasy Pros League today, he fell outside the top 120 overall picks. It's just too far for Jayden Reed, a player that the last 2 seasons as a rookie and second-year receiver has been wide receiver 26 and wide receiver 23. And now he's going clearly outside the top 45 wide receivers, I believe, the last time I checked real-time ADP. And this is just
he's wide receiver 46, by the way, in real time.
So this is just a bet on talent, right? I believe in his quarterback. I mean, how many guys can you find attached to a quarterback that we think is good, that can support fantasy viable weapons? And Jayden Reed, last year, still super efficient. He was 19th in the NFL in yards per route run. He's led the Packers in receptions and yards for 2 straight seasons. Weeks 1 through 13 last year for Jayden Reed, he was wide receiver 8 overall. Top 10 wide receiver. He was wide receiver 18 in points per game. I know that the qualm with him, again, this was also before the foot injury, which we still are trying to gather more information about. But the hesitance with him is the usage. But if you just look at a lot of guys that primarily operate out of the slot, they see a lot of motion. Those are usually guys that we want to draft in fantasy because they're getting layup targets where they can be super efficient, like Jayden Reed has been through the first 2 years of his career. I mean, just look at his operation and how well he's performed from the slot. Just looking at leaders in receiving yards per EPA or receptions per EPA from the slot last year, the top guys in that category were Ladd McConkey, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jayden Reed. So everyone else except Reed was a wide receiver 1 last season. So again, going back to, are the ingredients of a wide receiver breakout here with this player? And I think they are from a talent perspective. I think that he has shown through 2 years the flashes that this guy can be a potential league winner. And now given the price where you're drafting him as your wide receiver 6 or even like wide receiver 7 because he's just absolutely buried. And even if he misses week 1 with his foot injury, he becomes an IR stash player where you can just pick him up, draft him late, put him on your IR, and then add someone else like a defense or kicker for your roster. So I'm just a believer in the Packers passing game. Again, Tucker Kraft, who we'll also talk about a little bit later on, he's still my number 1 target in this Packers offense from the receivers. But Jayden Reed, as he just continues to fall, I'm just scooping him up because I believe in the talent.
So I said I was going to agree with you a lot in this episode. This is one where I did not feel this way early on. I have really come around on, I think, the league winner in this receiving room. You actually picked 2 guys in this receiving room. We'll get to the other one in a second. I actually think it's neither. I think it might be Matthew Golden. I've really come around on first-round pick. He's looked very good in camp, supposedly, according to the reports and everything. They have really liked what they've seen. He's getting good usage, it sounds like. And I know that the college production profile isn't necessarily what we were looking for, but of a lot of the guys that, like, watch film, like Dane Brugler, Daniel Jeremiah, like Fitz even mentions this in his write-up on the site about Golden. They had him as like a top 15 overall prospect, and he goes to an offense that I think, like, I'm a big believer in Matt LaFleur. I know they spread the ball around, but they've never had this first-round receiver type in the offense to target heavily before. I'm really high on Jordan Love this year, now that I expect him to be fully healthy coming off of like an injury-riddled last season. I just think Golden is the guy that, because he's wide receiver 41 in real-time ADP, so a very similar range to Jayden Reed, just a little bit higher. By round, it's maybe about 2 rounds higher, even though it's only about 5 spots amongst the position. Golden has moved up a lot. In the last week, he's jumped up 13 spots, actually, on real-time ADP. But I just think the upside is maybe higher there, given what we've seen some of the limited usage from Reed in the past. And I like investing in this offense, which is really, at the end of the day, why I am investing a lot in Jordan Love, because then I don't have to pick where the ball's going. I'm just picking the guy that is distributing the ball. But I think Golden is a great investment, too.
I agree with that. I mean, I have Golden ranked over Jayden Reed, or if I don't, I need to update my rankings because I was in that Fantasy Pros draft I was doing. I pulled Matthew Golden up because I recognize the upside that he has as a first-round pick. Jayden Reed, again, he's hurt right now. So I'm not going to feel comfortable drafting Reed over Matthew Golden when Golden is the healthier receiver. And he's probably a better bet to just lead the Packers in routes run this season. And I think the thing that stands the most out about Golden is whenever he was asked to step up with Texas last year, when Isaiah Bond was out just disappointing left and right and not delivering on expectations, Matthew Golden did. Like that was his like calling card coming out, was he had low expectations and he just continued to smash them every single time. And the perfect example of that was at the Combine when Isaiah Bond comes out and talks about, I'm going to break the record. I'm so fast. I'm going to do this or that. Matthew Golden's like, I'm just going to run, do the best I can. You guys will see. I think I'm going to run pretty well, but we'll see how things shake out. And who's the one that just runs the blazing 40 and who disappoints? And, Matthew Golden is the one that shines. Bond disappoints. And then obviously you see where the draft capital ended up. And Matthew Golden is definitely set up for success in the Packers offense. So again, you just want to invest in this Packers offense because I think that when you're attached to Jordan Love, we're going to see a league winner come from, that's kind of my most confident take is someone in the Packers receiving game is going to be a league winner. So draft all of them when you have the opportunity to do so. It's
a good point. And also like Christian Watson's going to miss most of the year, right? Like I'm not as a first round receiver, if you're investing in Matthew Golden, you're not worried about like Romeo Doubs or Dontavian Wicks, even though I like those players fine. It's basically Golden or Reed, and Reed is dealing with his own injury stuff and his own history of maybe not the usage we're exactly looking for. So I'm like, like, why wouldn't it be the first round pick who is impressing in camp and who a lot of film guys had as this elite prospect in the class? Again, I did not feel this way early. This is something I have come around on throughout July and August, but I'm just like, I just think Golden's going way too, I don't think he should be outside the top 40 receivers. And I think the upside is like significant. There's a lot of rookie receivers I like this year. We don't have them on the list, but like Emeka Egbuka, I think could have been on this conversation today. Again, we already talked about Tetairoa McMillan. I think Golden deserves to be in that conversation as a guy that's going too low amongst the rookie receivers.
I just want to say the thing that's interesting is Golden has not seen this this crazy rise like Egbuka has. Yeah. Where you like the next thing you look, you're like, oh well, Egbuka round 4. Like that's what you're expecting to see. But Matthew Golden does not have that around him. And you can say you thought Egbuka was a better prospect. I think I would agree with that. I had him higher in my rookie rankings. But just given the opportunity, I mean, we saw Egbuka raise because guys are hurt on the Buccaneers. Well, we just talked about Jayden Reed's injury. Dontayvion Wicks is banged up. Romeo Doubs, the coach is asking, is he going to get cut from the team? which was a ridiculous question for them to ask.
Well, so let's skip ahead and with this conversation. Yes. And so apologies to the editors. We're going a little bit out of order from the show sheet. But one of the other mid-round guys you have is Tucker Kraft, who's also in this offense. So how does he fit into this whole conversation for you?
Well, I think that he's probably my number one, right? If you can only pick one Packer receiver tight end to be the league winner, it's Tucker Kraft for me. And I think I just like making this bet based on if Golden or Jayden Reed hit, okay, great. I have another wide receiver that I can kind of add to my stable. But if I get Tucker Kraft to be this year's Brock Bowers or Jonnu Smith, that I feel like is such a significantly better hit for my fantasy team in the way that I built things out. Like hitting on that late round tight end is going to be a bigger win for my team than necessarily hitting on a wide receiver. So that's why Kraft is a guy I want to invest in priority numero uno. And it just goes back to he's really good at football. Yards after the catch last year, he was number 1 in yards after the catch per reception. And what did we see in this category in 2023? The top 2 guys, George Kittle, Jonnu Smith. Both were top 4 tight ends the following season after leading the NFL in yards after the catch per reception. So, going back to my old scouting days in terms of looking at prospects and just kind of find the next tight end breakout, yards after the catch tends to be kind of sticky. And it's because when guys get the ball in their hand, if they can make plays at tight end, they score points. They score fantasy points and they break out. And I think Tucker Kraft is on the trajectory to break out here, especially without the Packers receivers. Again, guys are banged up. And as fun as Matthew Golden might be, he doesn't necessarily profile as an alpha receiver in terms he's going to command like a 30% target share. Like that was not his game at Texas. Like he can be really efficient. He can catch touchdowns. He can be used downfield. But is he going to be seeing double-digit targets every single week? I would probably say I'm a little suspect of that. So that being said, it opens up opportunities for Kraft to see high-value opportunities in the red zone, downfield. So that's for me, like all the reasons why you want to be in on Tucker Kraft, because I think that he's the best bet to lead this team in red zone targets. And if Jordan Love tosses 30 touchdowns again, then Kraft is going to be on the receiving end of a lot of them.
Yeah, and I mean, to the conversation we've just had about this offense as a whole, like Reed dealing with injury, Golden maybe not the highest target earner. We're not worried about guys like Dobbs and Wicks if we're comparing to real breakouts here. Like the only knock against Kraft is like what kind of volume is he going to get? If the opportunity is there to get real volume, we love the efficiency, we love the player, overall talent. He's the best tight end on this team. Like, yeah, I think it's a great pick, and we don't. Is he the only tight end we're talking about today? He might be. I don't think we picked any others. But he's been your favorite.
He's the strategy at late round tight end. It's him and then Tyler Warren or Cole Warren.
And those two are back to back in real time ADP. And it's like, just get one. If you're not getting one of the elite tier 1 guys, just get one of those two. And like, it's the easiest position to give strategy advice for this year. Whenever everybody, what's your approach to the position? One of the top 3, or if they go too early, either Kraft or Warren. Done. Don't even think about it.
Like the amount of how bullish I am on Tucker Kraft is I could draft a tight end among the big 3 between Kittle, McBride, or Brock Bowers, and I'm still drafting Tucker Kraft on those teams just because I'm so high on this particular player, and I just think that he can be such a big hit that, yeah, I'm not looking to necessarily draft 2 tight ends, but I'm just such a believer in him accruing value over the season that maybe it'll give me an opportunity to flip one of them for a running back or a wide receiver if Tucker Kraft really hits in the big way that I think he can.
In fantasy sports, flexibility is everything, especially when you're managing injuries, bye weeks, or tough matchups. Your finances deserve the same level of control, and that's exactly what Klarna delivers. Klarna is your smarter, everyday spending partner. Inside the app, you can track purchases, compare prices, find deals, earn cash back, and choose to pay now or later with no interest when payments are made on time. It's the kind of tool that helps you stretch your money further and make every purchase count. This isn't about spending more, it's about spending wisely. Klarna fits seamlessly into how you already shop, whether you're picking up groceries, upgrading tech, or even just keeping an eye on your budget. Klarna gives you the financial flexibility to shop smart and stay in control, just like a good roster move. Download the Klarna app or head to Klarna.com to learn more. CA resident loans made or arranged pursuant to a California finance law license, NMLS number 1353190. Klarna balance account required. Klarna may get a commission. Limitations, terms, and conditions apply. Let's go to Jordan Mason, your next mid-round league winner here. This is somebody who I'm curious what you think about the opportunity, if this is somebody that needs an injury or if you think can be a big, outperformer of their current cost, even with Aaron Jones staying healthy.
I think that he can be, because we've seen this kind of script before with these number 2 running backs that run really hot on touchdowns. And that's kind of how they find their fantasy success. We saw it with Jamal Williams a couple years ago. 2 years ago, it was Raheem Mostert, right? It wasn't just Achane that was good as a rookie. Like, Raheem Mostert scored over 20 touchdowns in that Dolphins offense, and he wasn't the number 1 running back on that team. So we've seen time and time again that a couple backfields every year produce multiple running backs for fantasy. Every indication has been that Jordan Mason is going to have a standalone role in this backfield, specifically at the goal line and in the red zone. And he was really efficient and great last year behind Christian McCaffrey filling in. He was second in the NFL in rushing yards before his injury in week 8. I don't think I'm going out on a limb saying that the leading rusher for the Minnesota Vikings in 2025, if he stays healthy, is going to be Jordan Mason. That doesn't mean he's going to see the most touches, because I think that Aaron Jones is still going to be used more in the passing game. But in games where the Vikings are up and they're trying to run out the clock or do things in the second half, I think Jordan Mason's going to see a lot of touches. And the Vikings revamped the interior of their offensive line this offseason. They have a young quarterback who I don't think that they just want to have, hey, let's drop back and throw 40 times a game with JJ McCarthy. When you look at the situation, there's going to be no Jordan Addison for the first 3 weeks of the season. Justin Jefferson has missed all of training camp with a hamstring injury. Jalen Naylor is hurt. They're trying to trade for Adam Thielen, who has never played with JJ McCarthy. So I'm not picturing this high-flying passing attack coming out of the gates week 1. It's going to be a lot of Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones. So just given where they go in drafts, Jordan Mason's in round 8. He's kind of where I've talked about, we get a lot of questions about, where do I draft Corey Krosky-Mary? Where do I draft him? Jordan Mason is the cutoff for me. It's as long as Jordan Mason is on the board, I am drafting him over Krosky-Mary because I'm just way more confident in his role in the Vikings offense. But once Jordan Mason is off the board, feel free to go get Bill. Do whatever you want to go get him. So he's kind of where I draw the line, because he's definitely my favorite late round running back.
There's always a couple examples every year of guys that I don't have a lot of on my team, but that's not a reflection of how I feel about them. I just haven't gotten a lot of Jordan Mason because there's always somebody else that kind of beats me to the punch. But I do really like him. I think he's a good fit for this game. Because first of all, if Jones does go down, then this is a top 8 running back week in and week out, any week that Aaron Jones, who is an older running back, is not playing. But even if he does, I always call a flex plus. He's like a guy that you can still start, like a handcuff plus too, however you want to phrase it. He's a guy that there is contingent upside, but there is also right now upside. There is also you are going to probably get a value. He's RB29 in real-time ADP. There's a lot of names around him that I just feel better about Jordan Mason, or at the very least, just as good about Jordan Mason, to the point where I can wait on him and maybe focus on other positions elsewhere, knowing that Jordan Mason is kind of sitting there in my back pocket. So I don't really have anything to add to what you said. I agree with the case you laid out here.
Yeah, and I think too, especially in standard half PPR formats, where touchdowns are felt much more significantly, I think PPR is probably where maybe you don't need to be as aggressive trying to go after Jordan Mason, but I think that he's a long shot, a good bet to lead the NFL in touchdowns. At his odds, I think I got it 75 to 1. I mean, if this Vikings offense is a top 10 offense, then he's going to be live for that.
I think our former colleague Thor Nystrom has been tweeting about that. He is a Vikings fan, but he's been tweeting about this. Like, not enough people are talking about Jordan Mason is about to lead the NFL in touchdowns this year. Yeah, it'd be awesome to see. We got one more mid-round league winner here. We wanted to squeeze in a quarterback. This is one where, again, I don't have much to say just because we've talked about him a lot, but holy cow, do I agree. If there is one quarterback that is outside tier 1 right now that I had to bet to finish as QB1, not as a tier 1 QB, because I think the floor is lower for him than other guys. Like, I'm not saying he is the single best late round QB pick you can make, but if I had to pick one guy to finish as literally the QB1 overall, it's Drake Maye. Of the guys outside tier 1.
Yeah, I think that the bet is pretty simple. You're just looking for a quarterback with a dual threat skill set. Drake Maye as a rookie averaged over 30 rushing yards per game, and that was in a terrible situation. You just look at the 7 quarterbacks last year that had at least 30 rushing yards per game. 5 of them were inside the top 6 in terms of fantasy points scored per dropback. So essentially, it's the cheat code. We know that. Rich Rebar coined it, the Konami code. It exists with Drake Maye, and he's still super, super cheap in fantasy drafts. So I think that this is also a great bet in redraft or essentially any format, because what I always try to talk about with late round quarterbacks is you got to make sure that you can start them to open the year. Like, if you draft a late round quarterback and you look at the week 1, week 2 matchups and you're, oh no, like this is really bad. Like, I got to stream the position now or already. Not the case with Drake Maye, because he's playing the Raiders at home week 1 and the Dolphins in week 2. 2 matchups I feel really good about. Again, defenses will change, but based on the information we have at our disposal, I think those are good matchups for him. I think he can be a top 12 quarterback both of those weeks. And Drake Maye also, his bye week isn't until week 14. So I know that you were talking about, Worm, earlier about how you really like Jordan Love. Well, something that Jordan Love managers need to keep in mind is he's a week 5 bye week. So like, you have to hit waivers early on because your quarterback, if you only draft 1, is on a bye week very early in the season. So that's something, again, these are very minute points here, but they're tiebreakers that I use when you're going with late rounds.
In a 1 QB league, those guys are going as backups. So you could theoretically have, like, you could take Love and Maye. And I would love that as a duo in a 1 QB league.
For sure.
I think, like, the thing with Maye is, like, people always talk about rushing as a ceiling. It's also a floor. Like, even if the offense is bad around him, if he rushes the way he did last season, and I think he will probably run more this year, frankly, when it's not like, hey, why waste him in this lost season? Like, we don't care about wins last year. This year, the Patriots could take a step forward, so I think he'll run more. Obviously, we think it's a much stronger coaching staff. We know it's a much stronger coaching staff around him. Even if it's not the best supporting, system around him on the field, it is certainly improved from what it was last year. Like, the floor, I just think, is really high from a fantasy production standpoint. And the ceiling is also there. Like, I'm not the first person to make this comparison, but it just really feels like a poor man's Josh Allen in terms of fantasy production and what he can give you with the rushing. And it will surprise me 0% if he is a tier 1 quarterback in next year's drafts. And I don't know that that's the case for everybody. There's a lot of guys in this range. The reason I don't have more Drake Maye is because there are so many quarterbacks in this range that I like, and I think it's worth investing in all of them. But a lot of the other ones, the guys like Love, Caleb Williams, Stroud, Dak Prescott going a little earlier, Trevor Lawrence, these are all guys that I think are going too low. Maye is the one that I think is going like multiple tiers too low. Like, that if he hits his ceiling, and those other guys could be values, Maye could be the league winner, and I think there is a difference there.
Agreed. I mean, second-year quarterbacks take massive leaps all the time, and he just has, again, going back to who's got the ingredients to be a league winner, Drake Maye's got it at quarterback.
Let's go to our sort of like final roster spot, last few round lottery ticket types. These are guys really like rounds 11 and beyond. We can go a little bit faster here because we don't really need to hit as much on the downside because these are guys going late anyway. We're really just kind of focusing purely on upside. And Jake Seeley, who's been on a bunch of shows with us this offseason and will be into the season as well, it talks a lot about, like, don't waste your bench, right? Like, these are the types of guys, don't waste your bench, draft these sorts of players because we are only caring about the upside and guys that could end up, if situation breaks right, becoming league winners for you. First name off the bat here for you is Bhayshul Tuten.
Love Bhayshul Tuten since the scouting process, getting to meet him at the NFL Combine, was blown away. Thought that he was being slept on, and then he just absolutely blew up the NFL Combine testing, and then everyone knew his name, and then it kind of cooled. He had 1 fumble in OTAs, and everyone was like, well, we got to write this guy off. He's terrible. He's never going to have a role in this backfield, but I think that's still firmly in play. I don't know what the leash is with ETN and Tank Bigsby, where those guys clearly look like they're going to be operating as the 1-2 to start the year. But how long will that last? I think that there's reasons to be skeptical of how involved they're going to be throughout the season. But what we know is true is the Jaguars' new regime invested draft capital into Bhayshul Tuten. Like, that's the running back that they want in a completely stacked, loaded running back class. That's who they decided to pick. And I think earlier in the season, there was a lot of steam for him being this year's Bucky Irving. I still think that's firmly in play. Again, not just making the connected dots between Cohen and he's the guy that drafted Bucky Irving the year before in Tampa Bay, but when you just look at what Tuten can offer, he just has absolutely killer speed. I think that he has better speed than both ETN and Tank Bigsby. He can be used in the passing game. He's a broken tackle machine. Sports Info Solutions records broken tackle rate. Number 1 in 2023 out of that draft class was Bucky Irving. Number 1 in this year's draft class was Bhayshul Tuten. So I don't think it's by accident that Liam Cohen decided to pick Tuten out of the crop after seeing how successful Bucky Irving was in his offense in 2024. So I'm just chasing the upside here with him. Yes, it may not happen in week 1 for him, but the fact that he's probably going to be used also as a kick returner, I think we're going to start to see his explosiveness on display, and the Jaguars are going to find out and realize that, hey, we got to get this guy on the field somehow, some way. And there's still a possibility that one of these Jaguars running backs gets traded, whether it's Bigsby or Travis Etienne, who's playing in the last year of his contract. That's not to say I don't like Etienne. I think that he can still be like a decent value in drafts. As someone, if you're going late at the position, he can fill in some of those earlier weeks. But I think down the stretch, especially when we're talking about second half league winners, I think Bhayshul Tuten could end up being that guy emerging from this backfield.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, like, maybe not the season-long league winner, but the second half league winner type feels like. I said from the beginning with this backfield, like, I just want the guy who's going cheapest. I kind of anticipated that to be Tuten, maybe Tank Bigsby. It's Tuten by a pretty wide margin in real-time ADP. ETN is about the 97th pick. Tank Bigsby is about the 104th pick. And Tuten is the 132nd pick. So there's like a multiple round gap between him and those other two. In this backfield, I want the guy who's cheapest and who also has pretty obvious upside if he does end up getting the opportunity and taking advantage of it. We can go on to the next player here, Marvin Mims, somebody who we talked about last year, who other people have talked about on this show, who I am hesitant to fully trust Sean Payton, even when Mims is the reason why the only case to make against RJ Harvey is, well, he kind of did this with Mims and we saw what happened there. But I do think, like, when he's on the field, and he's been on the field a lot this preseason, when he's on the field, his per touch, fantasy production's through the roof. So I think it's a pretty obvious case to make.
Yeah, week 1, Denver Broncos, Tennessee Titans. All eyes are going to be on Marvin Mims and whether he's on the field or not. like that's really like the big thing we're going to be watching for, because that's what we're trying to figure out. If the preseason usage carries over, which is not necessarily always the case with Sean Payton, like you just kind of alluded to. But if Marvin Mims does have a full-time role in this offense, it's really easy to paint the case where, okay, this is a third-year wide receiver breakout. Because last season, he showed how efficient he could be. He averaged 62 receiving yards per game, led all wide receivers in yards per route run in the second half of the season from week 11 onward, 28% target rate. That was 13th in the NFL. Super young player. He's only 23 years old. Again, we were expecting this Broncos offense to be really good this season. Courtland Sutton is there as the established alpha wide receiver 1, but behind him, you have Evan Ingram. He's more of the underneath target. Troy Franklin has gotten some buzz as well as a second-year guy. But they trade away Devon Vele. So you would think, okay, at least that's got to be some indication that, hey, they feel good at least about their young wide receivers. Maybe it's more about Pat Bryant, the rookie they drafted this year. But I liked Marvin Mims a lot coming out of college, and he's flashed so much at the NFL level that I can't help but just, I got to take a chance. I need to know if this is going to stick, and I'm willing to take it as a draft pick, putting him on my bench for week 1 and seeing if this plays out, because we're going to know. Because once week 1 comes along, and if Sean Payton decides, nope, Marvin Mims back to your 27% snap share, then you can cut him and just move on. And week 2 comes and you're done with Marvin Mims, the experiment is over. But if he comes out and has a full-time role in this offense, I think that he's going to drastically beat his ADP outside the top 50 wide receivers. So, I mean, last year Mims was number 1 in yards after the catch per reception, and he played 27% of the snaps on offense last year. 27. That is so astronomically low that I think there's only nowhere to go but up here. And if he's in that 70, 75% range, I think you're looking at a potential wide receiver 3 that you can start potentially on a weekly basis.
Draft Assistant is the tool you need to land these guys when it matters. Draft Assistant connects directly to your draft and provides both real-time pick suggestions and estimations on which players might get taken before your next pick. Draft Assistant fully integrates your customized cheat sheets and suggests picks based on your rankings, team build, ADP, and other factors, allowing it to highlight your must-have targets before you get sniped. Dominate your draft in real time without the guesswork with Draft Assistant at fantasypros.com/assistant or on the Fantasy Pros app. Try it for free during your draft by claiming your 3-day trial of Fantasy Pros Premium at fantasypros.com/premium. All right, Erickson, next kind of lottery ticket league winner type you got for us.
Going with Braelon Allen, running back for the New York Jets. He's been kind of the human hype piece out of Jets training camp, where they're talking about how unstoppable he looks. He's a 240-pound running back that just turned 21 years old. It's an absolute monster. He's going to be splitting carries and usage and touches with Breece Hall, and I'm buying it a little bit here. I think that he fits pretty well when you're talking about, okay, the Jets want to be ground and pound. Why would you not want to feed this 240-pound running back? You look at how efficient he was last year when converting short yardage. He was the best short yardage running back from 2021 to 2024 just based on how well he was converting. He converted 11 of his 12 third-and-ones last season. That's over 91%. So I think there's a real opportunity that he's going to see goal line touches in the Jets backfield. And Breece Hall, we know that his appeal is in the passing game. Yes, they don't have a lot of targets behind Garrett Wilson, so we do expect Breece Hall to see some action there. But how often are the Jets really going to throw? If it's, hey, we're dropping back to throw to Garrett Wilson. If he's not open, maybe Justin Fields scramble. I just think that he fits exactly what the Jets are telling us that they want to do in describing to run the football. And the thing I can't forget about Braelon Allen is last year, before we saw Breece Hall kind of disappoint, we all view Breece Hall, again, I know I had him as my highest ranked running back last season, and that was obviously a big disappointment and big miss on my part. But part of the reason why I did miss was Braelon Allen was way more involved than I ever thought. I didn't think for once that a 4th-round rookie draft pick was going to take away touches from Breece Hall, who I thought could have been the highest scoring running back entering last year. But for over the first month of the season, you see Braelon Allen out there on the field earning touches from a healthy Breece Hall. So I think that's a pretty strong indicator that, hey, Braelon Allen's got some real talent here that, again, at least one coaching staff, maybe that wasn't the greatest coaching staff that decided to put him on the field, but I think it shows a little bit of something, and it reminds me of Chase Brown, his rookie year, where he got himself on the field even though Joe Mixon was still healthy. And it was only a limited sample, kind of what we saw with Braelon Allen last year, where he kind of fizzled out in the second half of the season. But those first couple of games, man, as a 20-year-old running back, forcing his way onto the field, I thought was pretty impressive, and I don't want to completely write that off. And he's going late enough now where I'm willing to buy into this hype a little bit.
Would you rather draft Braelon Allen or Bill Crosby-Merritt?
I would rather draft Bill Crosby-Merritt.
Allen is technically 2 spots ahead of him. And in fact, I don't think there's a way for me to throw this trivia question at you without giving away the answer, so I'm just going to tell you because it shocked me. So again, on real-time ADP, which we've referenced a lot on the show, you can see players' trends in the last 24 hours. You can also see their trend in the last 7 days, so in the last week. In the last week, Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt is only the 2nd biggest riser amongst running backs. And it's a massive rise. 3rd place is like 30 spots lower than him in terms of like the degree to which they've risen in the last week. But he's only 2nd. Braelon Allen has risen more in the last week in real-time ADP than Crosby-Merritt has. Crosby-Merritt's at almost 39 spots. Allen is at almost 40 spots up in the last 7 days. So the hype, you mentioned the hype there, like literally more hype for him than Crosby-Merritt right now.
Yeah, but the reason I do lean towards Bill as my pick is who could be a top 5 offense in the NFL? It's probably not the Jets. It's probably not going to be the Jets. Like the Commanders, I don't think anyone would be surprised if they're a top 5 offense just with Jayden Daniels.
I'm kind of worried about the Commanders' offense this year. I feel like a lot of like.
Do you think the Jets can outscore the Commanders?
I think the Jets can have a better running game than the Commanders.
That's fair.
I won't go further than that.
That's fair.
Speaking of running games, I love your next pick here, Dylan Sampson. I was in on him during the draft process. I was in on him even when he went to the same team as Quinshon Judkins. That's looked better as the summer's gone on, obviously for some off-the-field reasons too. But I was very high on Sampson like from day one, and I only feel better about that now. I'd love him as a late-round pick.
His ADP is just not adjusted to Judkins' ADP continuing to decline. Like, you'd think that they'd just be kind of like ships passing in the night where you see Judkins falling and falling and falling, rightfully so. and Dylan Sampson cruising up the boards, but he's not. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me because he's a very talented prospect in his own right. The Browns invested good draft capital in him round 4 after they already drafted Quinshon Judkins, but Judkins is nowhere to be found. We don't know when this guy's ever going to come back and then how long he's going to be suspended for. He's only really spent the OTAs with the team. He missed the entire training camp. So I think that Dylan Sampson with Jerome Ford, who had to take a pay cut to stay with the Cleveland Browns, like that's his competition. Jerome Ford, who never really got a chance to start until Nick Chubb got injured. And even when Nick Chubb came back and did not look good, he took away the starting job from Jerome Ford. So I don't think that the Browns view Jerome Ford as this, invested so much in this guy. We think that he's an uber talented player. If they thought that, then why would they draft 2 running backs in this year's draft? So I think that this is Dylan Sampson's job to win. And if he does win it, Judkins will have to come back and take the job away from him. And just given all the time that he's lost, I don't think that's going to happen. So I think Sampson is just the ultimate. You get some early season upside with him, with just Jerome Ford as the only guy in his way. And then if he shows out, I think he might actually hold this job depending on when and if Judkins ever comes back. I think that Sampson, again, he's not even 21 years old yet. And he had this monster season last year at Tennessee. He broke out 34% dominator rating. I think that he fits the scheme really well that the Browns are doing outside zone. A lot of people talked about at Tennessee how good that he would project in that type of offense moving forward. And also, he's a pass catcher. Like another player that they really talked about during the pre-draft process, very good hands. He can catch passes out of the backfield. And we know that Joe Flacco's not running around. So we know he's going to be able to provide receptions and targets to his running backs, especially if the Browns are playing in more, back and forth contests if they're giving up a lot of points. Again, when they have to face the Bengals, they got to face the Ravens. So I think Dylan Sampson just checks off all the boxes of a rookie running back that you have to be all over no matter what.
RB46 in real-time ADP, he's going as a late 12th round pick. I genuinely think, I'm not betting on this to happen. You don't need to draft him like it's going to happen. I genuinely think there's a non-zero chance he is the best draft pick you can make this season. Because if he does get this early runway and then just takes the job because he's that good, which I think is possible, then you're talking about the lead running back on a run-heavy offense that if Flacco starts for a lot of the season, I think is going to be, it's not going to be the best offensive football, but I think it's going to score more than maybe we're giving credit to it scoring this year. So again, I'm not saying reach 4 rounds to make sure you come away with Dylan Sampson, right? But in this range that he's going, I think the upside is as high as literally anybody going where he is or later.
I could not agree more. Just kind of think about what if Judkins doesn't come, what if he's a non-factor all year? And we were to get where would we be drafting Dylan Sampson as a 4th round rookie with Jerome Ford as his only competition? We would not be drafting him outside the top 45 running backs. That's for sure.
Where would we be drafting? That's a great question.
Where's Cam Scatabo been drafted all season long before he got injured? That's probably in the range, probably inside the top 30.
Multiple rounds higher. Yeah. I love Sampson. If you've drafted already, though, you can sync your league instantly to My Playbook to get custom advice on how to manage your team throughout the season. See your league's top available players, power rankings, and more for free. Check the Are They Playing tool each week to get the latest game day availability odds for all injured players. We revamped that tool over the offseason. We're really excited about it for this year. If you're premium, you unlock all kinds of helpful waiver, trade, lineup, and league analysis tools. You can even auto-start your team's optimal lineup each week with Autopilot. Sync your league and dominate every week of the season with My Playbook at fantasypros.com/myplaybook or on the Fantasy Pros app. Try all the My Playbook for free after your draft by claiming your 3-day trial of Fantasy Pros Premium at fantasypros.com/premium. Let's wrap up here, Erickson, with a couple of wide receivers here. Who do you got?
So I've got Bears wide receiver Luther Burden. I think that his ADP has just kind of fallen a little bit too far after missing a lot of training camp and some of the OTAs with an injury. Drafted by the Bears in the 2nd round. And right now, currently on the depth chart, he's behind Olamide Zaccheaus, which is definitely not good. But I think that we all know that that's not going to last. I think that eventually he's going to take over the starting slot role in this Bears offense. And I think that makes him kind of the perfect stash type of wide receiver. Even if you don't draft him, I think that he could probably get dropped after week 1 or week 2 because I don't expect him to do a lot during the opening part of the season. But if he's ended up playing the slot role in a Ben Johnson offense, which has traditionally been the best that you can have for fantasy football purposes, I think that he could provide a lot of upside, especially if one of these Bears receivers or one of the tight ends goes down with an injury. and Luther Burden has to be stepping into a larger role. Ben Johnson knows exactly how to use Burden in the right way, out of the slot, putting him in space. He was a missed tackle machine at Missouri. So I think Luther Burden, just based on his ADP, wide receiver 59, he was wide receiver 46 before all this injury stuff started happening with him during the offseason. So I think you're getting a severe discount for a player that I think is pretty boom or bust, that I think is worth stashing, kind of see how things play out for the first month of the year.
Burden is kind of similar to Golden in that he was somebody I was actually not that high on early in the summer, but have really come around. I just like that an offensive mind that we respect as much as we do Ben Johnson was like, this guy's a stud, and I want to go get him with an early second round
Legit, like
pick.
the first thing he says is
carries
like,
a lot of weight.
Yeah, Luther's a stud.
Yeah, I'm like, that just carries a lot of weight for me. And I'm buying into this offense. So yeah, I like the Burden pick. Give me your last receiver here. This is, I know, your favorite, fifth year receiver breakout.
Dude, I refuse to miss the Josh Palmer breakout season. So that's what I'm going with here as my last sleeper at the wide receiver position. I just think that this is a good way to spend your draft capital. Drafting wide receivers attached to Josh Allen that go outside the top 70 wide receivers or wherever he's going, especially when the number one wide receiver on the Bills is currently dealing with an injury. Khalil Shakir has missed a lot of the offseason with a high ankle sprain, which means he hasn't been practicing, which means you've been seeing Josh Palmer be able to develop chemistry with his quarterback in Josh Allen. Josh Palmer's going to have a full-time starting role in this Bills offense and is free across every single draft. I think that he's so worth taking the shot on in week one to see if he actually has that rapport with Josh Allen. I think that he could be one of the best separators on the Bills. And even last year, again, a disappointing season for him, but this is from Debro. Last year, he was 16th in separation rate, 12th in route win rate. So I think that he actually fills a void for the Bills of a receiver that, hey, he's different from Keon Coleman, where Keon Coleman doesn't really separate. He's winning with contested catches as a big red zone threat. Josh Palmer's actually winning with separation, which the Bills have not had as part of their offense. I think that he can fill in the role that they wanted to get from Amari Cooper last year that did not end up happening. He's only 25 years old. And like you alluded to at the top, Worm, you're teasing it, the fifth-year wide receiver breakout. Look, these guys get undervalued every single year. Last year it was Jerry Jeudy. Again, why did this team pay all this money to get Jerry Jeudy? Why did the Browns trade for Jerry Jeudy? You look up, oh, Jerry Jeudy, fantasy wide receiver 1. Darnell Mooney, another guy that maybe got overpaid in free agency. And what happens? He balls out. Jacoby Myers, a couple of years before that, balls out with the Las Vegas Raiders in his first season with them. So I think Josh Palmer, people are sleeping on him. I think that it's going to be the year he finally breaks out.
I want to throw out some names that we kind of solicited on Twitter to see what our listeners thought were going to be some of the league winners this season. We got to get out of here to go tape another show, so we'll go quickly, but I want to read through them here and get your opinion here, Erickson, on which of these guys you agree with. I think they're all pretty good picks, honestly. We got some really good responses here. So quickly, some of the responses. Bhayshul Tuten, who we already talked about, Ricky Pearsall, Travion Henderson, Jamison Williams, Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, and Omarion Hampton, Cortland Sutton, who I think we have not talked nearly enough about on shows this summer, but I think has a ton of upside too. Which of those stands out to you? Because I think they're all great picks, honestly.
I think it's the rookie running backs, the guys that you listed off, whether it's Travion Henderson, Omarion Hampton. This rookie running back class is special, and I think that we're going to see it from week one, that as hyped as we think that we may be on them, we may not be high enough on these rookie running backs once we finally see them hit the field, because some of these guys have just runways where Travion Henderson, he looks like a superstar, and I get so upset at myself because I think we did a show maybe like a month or so ago, Worm, and I talked about how he was overvalued at that time, which couldn't have been more wrong of a take, that I feel so bad about putting out into the ether, because he was appropriately valued now, and maybe he's a little bit overvalued now, but he just looks like a superstar in the making. He's the best player on the Patriots offense, and despite how the Patriots may try to limit his touches in some way, shape, or form, if they want to win football games, like, they got to get the ball to their best player on offense. And it clearly seems like that guy's Henderson. And Omarion Hampton, I mean, we were all concerned about Najee Harris at the beginning of the offseason, thinking, man, Najee's going to be a thorn in the side of Hampton. And Najee has been a zero non-factor the entire offseason program because of this eye injury. So Hampton, again, now another running back where we're excited about, he's got the runway to be the RB1 in this offense. And we'll see if Greg Roman holds him back, but these rookie running backs, I think that when in doubt, click the button on one of these guys. I think you're going to benefit in the long run for it.
I think guys like Ridley and Sutton are definitely good values amongst the submissions that we got here. I think if I'm defining it like as a true like league-defining league winner, like season-defining type of player, I think the two that stand out to me are actually Trayvon Henderson is an obvious one. I think Ricky Pearsall too. I think there is a world where Pearsall is just like a top 8 receiver this year if the volume is available because of other injuries and opportunity in what is typically a very good offense when healthy. He's a very good player. Year 2, like obviously last year was started off crazy with getting shot in the chest, like a very different start to this season for him. Like I think there's a world where Pearsall takes a step forward and is just like a clear number 1 receiver this season.
If I had to comp the season for Ricky Pearsall compared to the guy I would say that Ricky Pearsall could be this year's JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Where it's like his rookie year, not really what we wanted to see out of him. Again, people forget that JSN hurt his wrist last offseason as a rookie and then entered the year. There was a bunch of other receivers. It was a big kind of total mess. But Pearsall, man, I think that he's slated to tee up here. Yeah,
I love it. I love all these picks. Great picks by the listeners. Great picks by you, Erickson. We got through it all. Thanks everybody for
tuning in. Except Jayden Reed. It's okay.
Well, listen, I just like Matthew Golden a lot. I know you
not
like
wrong.
You're
after Packers.
Yeah, and you like Golden better than Reed too. So even when we disagree, you're giving me credit here. Well, those are our league winners here. So go out and win your leagues. Hopefully this episode can help. That's what it's all here for, right? We're not here to finish in 3rd place. We're here to win our fantasy championships. For Erickson, I'm Ryan Wormeli. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again next time.
Go back to go home.